The rain hammered against the subway windows, like 1,000 desperate fingers seeking entry. Inside the nearly empty Red Line car cutting through Chicago's South Side, Kenji Oh sat alone, surrounded by invisible walls built from blood and choices that couldn't be undone. His three-piece Brioni suit cost more than most people earned in 6 months. The platinum cufflinks catching the fluorescent light had been a gift from a politician whose career he owned. But tonight, staring at his reflection in the rain-streaked glass, he saw only exhaustion, the kind that seeped into bones and made a man question if power was worth the weight it carried. The Dragon of Chicago, they called him, the man who controlled the ports, the unions, the streets. At 34, he'd built an empire his father could never have imagined, but empire building left no room for warmth, no space for gentleness. His hand moved to his chest, fingers brushing the shirt fabric covering a scar, a reminder of betrayal 2 years past. The subway car swayed, metal shrieking against rails, and Kenji closed his eyes. He didn't notice the woman and child 3 rows ahead until the girl's laughter broke through his isolation. Alani Clark's head jerked up as the subway lurched, her body fighting the pull of exhaustion. Double shifts at Mercy Hospital were destroying her, one 16-hour day at a time. The nursing assistant uniform clung to her dark brown skin, wrinkled and damp with the sweat of caring for patients who couldn't care for themselves. Beside her, 6-year-old Hope hummed softly, her small fingers wrapped around a plastic superhero figure. The toy's paint had worn away in patches, revealing grey plastic beneath, but Hope treated it like treasure. Her cornrows, meticulously braided by Alani just 3 days ago, were beginning to fuzz at the edges. The girl's dark eyes, so much like her father's, the father who'd vanished before she was born, sparkled with imagination as she flew the toy through invisible battles. "Mama's tired, baby," Alani whispered, her Chicago accent thick with fatigue. "Just let me rest my eyes a minute. I know, Mama." Hope's voice carried that peculiar wisdom some children possessed, an old soul in a small body. "I'll keep watch." Alani's lips curved despite her exhaustion. Keep watch. As if their worst problems could be solved by a 6-year-old's vigilance. The eviction notice folded in her purse said otherwise. So did the medical bills stacked on their kitchen counter, growing like weeds after Hope's emergency room visit last month. Asthma, severe, requiring medication they couldn't afford and a surgery they'd never be able to pay for. The subway car was nearly empty at this hour, just past midnight. A businessman slept in the corner, briefcase clutched to his chest. 2 teenagers whispered and giggled near the doors, and the man in the expensive suit, sitting alone like a king without a kingdom. Hope noticed him too. Children always saw what adults tried to hide. "Mama, why does that man look so sad?" Alani's eyes cracked open, following her daughter's gaze. The Asian man, Korean, if she had to guess from the sharp lines of his face and the set of his shoulders, sat perfectly still. His suit probably cost more than their rent. His shoes gleamed even under the harsh fluorescent lights. Everything about him screamed wealth and power, but Hope was right. Sadness clung to him like cologne. "Some people carry heavy things, baby," Alani murmured, her eyes already closing again. "We all got our burdens." The subway announcement crackled overhead, garbled and incomprehensible. The train slowed for the next stop. Alani felt herself drifting, her body finally surrendering to exhaustion. She'd been awake for 23 hours, just a few minutes of rest. Kenji felt the child stare before he saw her. Years of survival had honed his awareness into a weapon. He could sense threats, opportunities, dangers before they materialized. But when he turned his head, he found only a little black girl with braided hair, clutching a worn toy, studying him with unsettling intensity. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7. Her clothes were clean but worn. Hand-me-downs, probably. The woman beside her, her mother clearly, given the identical curve of their cheekbones, had collapsed into sleep, her head tilted at an uncomfortable angle against the window. The girl slid off her seat. Kenji's muscles tensed. In the far corner of the car, disguised as a sleeping homeless man, his guard, Min Jun, shifted slightly. Near the doors, another of his men, posing as a tired worker, straightened imperceptibly. "Stand down," Kenji's slight head shake commanded. "The girl is no threat." Hope walked toward him with the fearlessness only children possessed. Her sneakers squeaked against the subway floor. She stopped directly in front of him, her head tilted back to meet his eyes, and Kenji found himself frozen by her directness. "You look like you're losing a battle in your heart, mister." Her voice carried a lisp where her front tooth was missing. "My mama says everybody got battles we can't see." Kenji's throat tightened. When was the last time someone had spoken to him without fear, without calculation, without wanting something? "Do I?" His voice came out rougher than intended. Hope nodded solemnly. She held up the plastic superhero, its paint worn away by countless hours of play. "This is Captain Justice. He always wins his battles because he fights for people who can't fight for themselves." She extended the toy toward him. "You can keep him until you win yours." The gesture struck Kenji like a physical blow. This child, this beautiful, innocent child who probably had nothing, was offering him her treasure, her protection, her hope. His hands, which had signed death warrants and broken bones and counted millions in blood money, trembled as he accepted the small plastic figure. It weighed nothing, it meant everything. "Thank you," he whispered. The words felt foreign in his mouth. I'll take good care of him." Hope beamed, the smile transforming her face. "I know you will. You got kind eyes, even if they're sad." Before Kenji could respond, before he could process the crack forming in the armor he'd spent decades building, the subway doors hissed open at a station he didn't recognize. The lights flickered. 3 men entered the car, their swagger preceding them like a warning. Kenji recognized predators when he saw them. Street criminals, probably looking for easy marks. Their eyes swept the car, dismissing the sleeping businessman, the teenagers, his disguised guards. Then they landed on the sleeping woman with the expensive-looking purse beside her, Hope's mother, the girl's only protection. The child seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere. She glanced back toward her mother, then at the men approaching, then at Kenji. Fear flickered across her young face, the first crack in her bravery. "Mister," she whispered, "those men." "Go back to your mother," Kenji said quietly, already rising from his seat. He slipped the toy into his breast pocket right over his heart. "And close your eyes." Hope's bottom lip trembled, but she obeyed, scurrying back to the seat and burying her face against her mother's shoulder. The lead predator, a white man with a tear tattoo and poorly concealed track marks, reached Alani's row, his hand extended toward her purse. His companions flanked him, blocking escape routes, their body language broadcasting violence. Kenji moved. He didn't run. Dragons didn't need to run. He simply placed himself in their path, his body a wall between the criminals and the sleeping woman, between them and the child with the missing tooth who'd given him her superhero. "Gentlemen." His voice carried no anger, no threat, just absolute certainty. "This car is closed." The lead man's eyes narrowed, assessing. His companions shifted, hands moving toward weapons Kenji knew they carried. For a moment, the car hung in perfect tension, the criminals calculating odds, Kenji's men ready to move, the child holding her breath against her mother's shoulder. Then the tear-tattooed man's gaze caught on something. The platinum cufflinks, perhaps, or the way Kenji stood with the absolute confidence of a man who'd never lost a fight that mattered. Or maybe he glimpsed Min Jun rising from his corner, shedding his homeless disguise like a snake's skin. Whatever the calculation, the math didn't work in their favor. "Wrong car," the leader muttered. "Let's go." They backed toward the doors, never turning their backs, and exited at the next stop. The entire confrontation had lasted less than 90 seconds. Kenji remained standing until the train moved again. Behind him, Alani stirred, her eyes opening slowly. "Hope." Her voice carried sleep and worry in equal measure. "Baby, you okay?" "I'm okay, Mama." The sad man protected us. Alani's gaze found Kenji, confusion and wariness mixing in her dark eyes. He gave her a slight nod, nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement, before returning to his seat 3 rows away. As the subway carried them deeper into the night, Kenji's fingers touched the plastic toy in his pocket. Captain Justice, a guardian for those who couldn't guard themselves. Perhaps it was time the Dragon of Chicago remembered how to be a hero. Kenji O's office occupied the entire top floor of the Lakeview Tower, 53 stories above Chicago's streets. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city he controlled, from the docks where his shipping empire operated legally and otherwise, to the neighborhoods where his protection extended or his punishment fell depending on loyalty. The office itself was a study in contrasts, sleek modern furniture alongside traditional Korean artifacts. A Joseon dynasty ceramic vase worth $500,000 sat beside a photograph of his late father. The man who'd built the foundation of this empire with nothing but determination and blood. Kenji stood at the window, watching dawn break over Lake Michigan, the plastic superhero from the subway turning slowly in his fingers. "You're going to tell me this is a terrible idea," he said without turning. Behind him, Park Min-jun, his head of security and oldest friend, sighed. They'd grown up together in Koreatown. Two second-generation boys navigating the space between their parents' homeland and their American reality. Where Kenji had risen to power, Min-jun had chosen loyalty. "When have you ever listened when I told you something was a terrible idea?" "Fair point." Kenji set the toy on his desk with surprising gentleness. "I need everything on them, the woman and the girl. Everything." "Already done." Min-jun placed a tablet on the desk. Alani Clark, 32. Nursing assistant at Mercy Hospital. No criminal record. Works doubles 3 times a week. Father unknown. Mother deceased 2 years ago. Cancer. He paused. "She's drowning, Kenji." The tablet displayed a financial picture that made Kenji's jaw tighten. Alani Clark made $32,000 a year, barely enough to survive in Chicago, certainly not enough to thrive. Medical bills from her daughter's emergency room visit totaled $18,000. Rent on their South Side apartment was 4 months overdue. An eviction notice had been filed 2 weeks ago, and the girl, Hope Clark, age 6, required surgery for severe asthma. The procedure would cost $60,000. Without it, according to the medical reports Min-jun had obtained, her condition would continue deteriorating. "The landlord," Kenji asked, "Samuel Rodriguez, owns 14 buildings in that area. History of exploiting tenants, especially single mothers. He's pressuring Ms. Clark to—" Min-jun's voice hardened, "to find alternative payment arrangements." Kenji's fingers curled into fists. "Make the debt disappear. All of it. Medical, rent, everything. How do you want it handled?" "Carefully. She can't know it came from me." Kenji turned from the window, his mind already working through the logistics. "The medical bills have our contact at the hospital's billing department mark them as covered by a charitable fund. The rent arrears, Rodriguez gets a visit from the building inspector. I want every code violation documented. He'll be motivated to forgive the debt to avoid fines. And the surgery? I want the best pediatric pulmonologist in the Midwest, Dr. Sarah Chen at Northwestern. Tell her I'm calling in my favor. 2 years ago, Kenji had helped Dr. Chen's brother disappear when a drug debt had put his life in danger. The girl gets the surgery. Anonymous donor covers all costs. Min-jun made notes on his own tablet. Security on their building? Round the clock. Rotation of our best people, but invisible. No one approaches them. No one makes them uncomfortable. No one even looks at them wrong." Kenji's voice dropped to something cold and final. "And Rodriguez, after his visit from the building inspector, I want him to understand that Alani Clark and her daughter are untouchable. Use whatever language he'll comprehend." "Understood." Min-jun hesitated. "You're sure about this? Once you start protecting them, you can't stop halfway." Kenji picked up the plastic superhero again, studying its worn features. "A 6-year-old girl gave me her most precious possession because she thought I needed a hero." His voice softened. "Maybe she's the only person in this city who's seen me clearly in years. Or maybe," Min-jun said quietly, "you're looking for redemption in the wrong places. Maybe redemption doesn't have a right place." Kenji pocketed the toy. "Maybe it just is. Now go. I want everything in motion by noon." As Min-jun left, Kenji returned to the window. Somewhere in this vast city, a woman who worked herself to exhaustion was probably waking up in an apartment she couldn't afford. Making breakfast she'd skip so her daughter could eat. Preparing for another day of fighting battles she couldn't win. Not anymore. The Dragon of Chicago was about to become her invisible guardian. 3 days later, Alani stared at the letter from Mercy Hospital with shaking hands. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. The billing department's official letterhead proclaimed that her outstanding medical debt had been forgiven, completely erased, thanks to the Chicago Community Health Initiative, a charitable fund she'd never heard of. All $18,000 gone. "Mama!" Hope appeared in the doorway of their tiny kitchen, her school backpack making her look even smaller. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, baby, nothing at all." Alani pulled her daughter into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her face. "We just got a miracle." But the miracles didn't stop. That afternoon, her landlord Rodriguez appeared at her door, his usual predatory smile replaced with something that looked almost like fear. He informed her, stuttering, sweating, that her rent debt had been forgiven. A computer error, he claimed. Building management's mistake. She didn't owe anything. "In fact," he added, his eyes darting to something behind her, though the hallway was empty, "we're offering you a new lease. Same apartment, half the rent, permanent rate, building improvements." Alani didn't believe in coincidences, but she also didn't believe in looking gift miracles in the mouth. "I accept," she said firmly. That night, after Hope had gone to bed, Alani sat at their second-hand kitchen table and cried. Not from grief or exhaustion, but from the overwhelming relief of breathing room, of possibility, of hope that matched her daughter's name. She thought about the man on the subway, the sad-eyed Korean man in the expensive suit who'd stood between them and danger, without being asked. The way Hope had given him her toy, the gesture of a child who saw goodness where others might see threat. Was it connected? Could it be? No. That was ridiculous. Rich men didn't help random women on subways. They didn't make medical debt vanish, or landlords suddenly grow consciences. But as she prepared for bed, Alani found herself hoping that somewhere in this vast, cruel city, there were still people who did kind things without expecting payment. She was closer to the truth than she knew. 2 weeks after the subway encounter, Hope Clark's life changed forever with a phone call. Alani answered her cell during her lunch break, expecting another bill collector or robocall. Instead, she heard a professional woman's voice introducing herself as Dr. Sarah Chen, pediatric pulmonologist at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. "Ms. Clark, I'd like to discuss your daughter Hope's case. I've reviewed her medical records, and I believe she's an excellent candidate for a minimally invasive surgical procedure that could resolve her asthma complications." Alani's heart stopped again. "Doctor, we can't afford—" "The procedure has been fully funded by an anonymous donor through our hospital's children's health program. There would be no cost to you, none at all." The phone nearly slipped from Alani's trembling fingers. Dr. Chen continued, her voice warm with understanding. "I know this might seem too good to be true, Ms. Clark, but I assure you it's legitimate. These programs exist to help children who need care. Hope deserves this chance." "When?" Alani whispered. "We have an opening next Tuesday. I'd like to schedule her for pre-operative testing this Friday, if you're available." Alani was available. She would make herself available for anything that might help her daughter breathe easier. What Alani didn't know, what she could never know, was that 53 floors above the city, Kenji Oh had personally reviewed every detail of Hope's surgical plan. He'd read Dr. Chen's notes 3 times. He'd verified the success rate. He'd ensured the best anesthesiologist, the best nurses, the best possible care. "She's 6 years old," Minjun observed, watching his boss obsess over medical charts the way he usually obsessed over shipping manifests or rival operations. "You do realize you can't protect her from everything." "I can protect her from this." Kenji's finger traced the surgical outline on the screen. "This is solvable. This has a solution. And after the surgery, then what?" Kenji didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that a child had given him her hero because she thought he needed protection. The least he could do was ensure she could breathe. The surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Kenji would be there, not inside, never where they could see him, but there nonetheless. The night before Hope's surgery, Alani couldn't sleep. She sat in the hospital's family waiting area, her nursing assistant uniform exchanged for worn jeans and a Chicago Bulls t-shirt. Hope slept in the pre-op room, sedated and peaceful, unaware of the knife that would save her tomorrow. Alani had never felt so alone. She'd asked for time off work. Her supervisor had granted it immediately, surprisingly, with full pay for the week. Another small miracle in a month full of them. but miracles didn't erase the terror of watching your child go into surgery. "Excuse me." A young Korean man in an expensive suit appeared beside her. "I'm looking for the vending machines?" Alani pointed down the hall, not really looking at him. "Around the corner, past the elevators." "Thank you." He hesitated. "You have someone in surgery tomorrow." "My daughter, lungs." The words came out flat, emotionless. If she felt them, she'd break. "I'm sure she'll be fine. Dr. Chen is the best." Alani's head snapped up. "How did you—" But the man was already walking away, his expensive shoes silent on the hospital linoleum. Something about his posture, the set of his shoulders, tickled her memory. But exhaustion made everything hazy. The man was Min-jun, of course, Kenji's oldest friend, checking the hospital security, ensuring everything was prepared, ensuring the dragon's newest priority would be protected. Hope's surgery lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. Every minute felt like years to Alani. She paced the waiting room, her nursing training warring with her mother's terror. She knew the statistics, she understood the procedure, but knowledge didn't stop her hands from shaking. At 11:23 a.m., Dr. Chen emerged, still in her surgical cap, a tired smile on her face. She did beautifully. The procedure went exactly as planned. Hope is in recovery now and she's already breathing easier. Alani collapsed into a chair, sobs finally breaking free. Dr. Chen sat beside her, a comforting hand on her shoulder, and let her cry. What Alani didn't see was the man in the expensive suit standing at the end of the hallway, just beyond the waiting room doors. Kenji had been there since 6 a.m., watching from a distance, his phone receiving constant updates from Min-jun, who'd infiltrated the hospital as a medical equipment salesman. When Dr. Chen emerged with her smile, when Alani collapsed in relief, Kenji felt something in his chest unlock. The plastic superhero in his pocket seemed lighter somehow. The girl would live, she would breathe, she would grow up. It was enough. He turned to leave, but something made him look back one final time. Through the waiting room windows, he could see Alani being led back to see her daughter. Her stride was stronger now, her shoulders straighter. Relief had given her new strength. Kenji had built an empire on fear and power. But this anonymous act of protection, felt more powerful than anything he'd accomplished in his entire criminal career. "She'll never know it was you," Min-jun said quietly, appearing at his elbow. "Good." Kenji started walking toward the elevator. "That's how it should be." "Is it, though? You've invested significant resources into these strangers. You're maintaining round-the-clock security on their building. You've ensured her job security. You're paying for the girl's follow-up care. All for what? A plastic toy and a smile?" Kenji stopped walking. He pulled the worn superhero from his pocket, studying its faded paint and chipped features, for the reminder that there's still innocence in this world, that there are still people who give without expecting return. That kindness exists even in a city like this. He pocketed the toy again. "I spent 20 years building an empire on fear. Maybe it's time I remembered what else is possible." Min-jun shook his head, but he was smiling. "You're going soft." "Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally becoming the man my father hoped I'd be." They rode the elevator down in silence. Outside, Chicago stretched out in all directions. A city of 8 million people, 8 million stories, 8 million battles being fought in hearts and homes. Kenji had chosen 2 of those stories, a mother and daughter who'd asked for nothing but deserved everything. He couldn't save the whole city, but he could save them. And perhaps, in saving them, he was saving something in himself. The Dragon of Chicago walked to his car, his empire waiting, his phone already buzzing with problems that needed solving. But for the first time in years, he felt something other than the weight of power. He felt peace. Autumn transformed Chicago into a painting of burning colors. 3 months had passed since Hope's surgery, and the girl's recovery had exceeded every expectation. She ran now, actually ran, in the small park near their apartment, her laughter carrying on wind that smelled of fallen leaves and coming winter. Alani watched from a bench, a genuine smile on her face for the first time in years. Her daughter was healthy, their rent was affordable. She'd even been promoted at the hospital, better hours, better pay, benefits that included dental coverage, miracles, all of them, impossible, wonderful miracles. "Mama, Mama, look," Hope called out, hanging upside down from the monkey bars, her braids defying gravity. "I'm flying." "I see you, baby, be careful." But Alani's attention drifted past her daughter to the park's edges. She'd noticed them over the past weeks. Different men, always keeping their distance, always watching. Not threatening exactly, but present. Vigilant. At first she'd been afraid. Men watching a single mother and her child was never good. But these men were different. They kept distance. They moved when she moved. When a group of teenagers started getting rowdy near the playground, one of the watchers simply stood and crossed his arms, and the teens scattered. Protection, Alani realized. Someone had put protection on them. The question was who and why. She thought again of the subway man, the sad-eyed Korean in the expensive suit who'd stood between them and danger. The way Hope had given him her precious toy. The timing of all their good fortune starting right after that night, it seemed impossible. But then again, so did medical debt vanishing, and landlords suddenly growing hearts. "Ms. Clark," Alani startled, her nurse's instinct scanning for threats. But the young woman approaching held nothing but a tablet and a professional smile. She wore business casual, blazer, slacks, sensible shoes. Behind her stood one of the watching men Alani had noticed, his presence suddenly making sense. "Yes?" Alani's voice carried wariness. "My name is Jennifer Park. I work for the Chang Foundation, a charitable organization focused on supporting single mothers in Chicago." The woman's smile was warm, genuine. "We'd like to offer you a scholarship opportunity." "A scholarship?" "For nursing school, full tuition, books, and a living stipend. The foundation covers everything, and you'd be able to continue working part-time while studying." Jennifer pulled up information on her tablet. "We've already spoken with your supervisor at Mercy Hospital. They're willing to adjust your schedule to accommodate classes." Alani's mind reeled. "Why me? How did you even—" "You were recommended by someone who witnessed your dedication and character. The Foundation's mission is to help mothers who help others." Jennifer's eyes were kind. "You save lives every day, Miss Clark. Let us help you build the life you deserve." "I don't understand." "You don't have to. You just have to say yes." And because Alani Clark was smart and tired and had learned that sometimes miracles shouldn't be questioned too deeply, she said yes. 53 floors above the city, Kenji watched security footage of the park on his office monitors. Hope was healthy, playing, laughing. Her mother was safe, being offered opportunities that would change their lives. "The Chang Foundation doesn't exist," Minjun said behind him. "It does now, registered this morning, fully funded, legitimate board of directors." Kenji's eyes never left the screen. "It'll support single mothers across Chicago, starting with her. You're building a charity to justify helping two people. I'm building a charity because those two people reminded me that there's more to power than fear." Kenji finally turned from the monitors. "How many other Alani Clarks are in this city? How many Hopes? If I can help them without them knowing, without expecting gratitude or loyalty or payment, isn't that worth something?" Minjun studied his oldest friend. "Who are you and what have you done with the Dragon of Chicago?" Kenji laughed, actually laughed, something his guards had rarely heard. "He met a 6-year-old girl who gave him a superhero and told him he had kind eyes despite being sad. Apparently that was all it took." But Minjun's expression had shifted, his security training overriding the moment's levity. "We have a problem." "What kind?" "The kind where your charity toward Ms. Clark has been noticed." Park Tae-min sent a message. Kenji's jaw tightened. Park Tae-min, his cousin, his rival, the man who believed he should control the family's operations. They'd maintained an uneasy peace for 2 years, each controlling their territories, neither willing to risk open war. What does he want? He wants to know why the Dragon of Chicago is protecting a random black woman and her daughter. He's asking questions, making implications about your judgment, suggesting to the family that you're distracted. Of course, in their world, kindness was weakness. Protection without profit was foolishness. Tae-min would try to use this against him. "Let him ask questions," Kenji said quietly. "Let him make implications. But make it very clear. Anyone who approaches those two, anyone who even looks at them wrong, answers to me personally." That might provoke him. "Good. I'm tired of pretending to play nice with a snake." Kenji returned to the monitors, watching Hope swing higher, higher, her mother's cautionary voice carrying even through the security feed. "Tell Tae-min that some things are sacred, some people are untouchable, And if he has a problem with that, we can discuss it the old way. The old way meant violence. It meant war. It meant risking everything he'd built for two people who didn't even know he existed. But as Kenji watched Hope's joy and Alani's relief, he realized he didn't care. Some things were worth fighting for. Some people deserved protection simply because they existed, because they brought light to a dark world, because a child's generosity had cracked through his armor and reminded him what it meant to be human. "Send the message," he said, "and increase security on their building. Taemin won't move directly, he's too smart for that, but he'll test boundaries. I want to know immediately if anyone even breathes wrong in their direction." Minjun nodded, already making calls, but before he left, he paused. "Kenji? That girl? Hope? What happens when she grows up? When she understands the kind of protection she's had? When she realizes the miracles in her life weren't accidents?" Kenji touched the plastic superhero in his pocket, his constant companion now. "Then she'll know that someone saw her kindness and decided to protect it, that in a city full of darkness, her light was worth guarding. And if Taemin makes this a war, then we go to war. Some things are worth bleeding for, Minjun. I'm finally remembering what they are. The attack came on a Tuesday night in November, when Lake Michigan's wind cut through Chicago's streets like frozen knives. Alani was walking home from an evening nursing class, her first week at school, her mind full of medical terminology and the strange, wonderful reality of pursuing dreams she'd abandoned years ago. Hope was with Mrs. Patterson, their elderly neighbor who'd started babysitting for free. Another small miracle in a year of them. She was 3 blocks from home when she sensed them. Years of working night shifts in rough neighborhoods had honed her survival instincts. The footsteps behind her were too deliberate, too measured. Alani's pace quickened. 2 blocks. Her phone was in her pocket, but who would she call? 911. By the time they arrived, "Miss Clark." The voice came from ahead, not behind. A Korean man stepped from a doorway, his expensive coat and predatory smile marking him as someone dangerous. "My name is Park Taemin. I'd like to discuss your guardian angel." Alani stopped, her nurse's training kicking in. Assess the situation, count the threats, find escape routes. Behind her, 2 men blocked retreat. Ahead, Taemin and another guard blocked forward movement. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No? Strange. Your medical debt disappeared, your rent forgave, your daughter's surgery funded, your scholarship materialized from nowhere." Taemin's smile was razor-sharp. All very expensive miracles for a woman who claims to know nothing. "I received help from charities." "You received help from my cousin. The Dragon of Chicago has become quite invested in your welfare." Taemin stepped closer. "I'm curious what makes you so special, what you offer in return." The implication in his voice made Alani's skin crawl. "I don't know anyone by that name. I don't know your cousin. Let me pass." "Oh, I'll let you pass. After you deliver a message." Taemin's hand moved toward her face and froze as cold metal pressed against the base of his skull. "Touch her." Minjun's voice was ice itself. "And you'll be dead before you complete the motion." The street erupted with movement. From cars, from shadows, from storefronts, men appeared. Minjun's team, the guards Alani had noticed but never fully understood. Within seconds, Taemin's 2 men were disarmed and forced to their knees, but Taemin just smiled even with a gun to his head. There he is, the legendary Minjun, protecting his master's pet. "Walk away," Minjun said quietly. "This is your only warning." "Or what? You'll start a war over some random woman?" "No." The new voice came from behind them all, and everyone turned. Kenji O stepped from a black sedan, his 3-piece suit immaculate despite the cold, his eyes carrying death itself. "I'll end a war over someone under my protection." Alani's breath caught. The subway man, the sad-eyed Korean who'd stood between them and danger months ago. But there was nothing sad about him now. He moved like controlled violence, like barely restrained fury. "Cousin." Taemin's smile never wavered, though the gun remained pressed to his skull. How noble. Starting a family war over a black woman and her bastard child. The words hung in the freezing air. Alani expected Kenji to respond to the insult, to the provocation. Instead, he simply looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression made her understand the truth of the past months. "Miss Clark," Kenji said, his voice gentle despite the violence vibrating through the scene. "Are you all right?" She should be terrified. She should run. She should grab Hope and disappear from this world of dangerous men and unspoken threats. But looking at Kenji, she saw what Hope had seen months ago on that subway. Kind eyes, despite the sadness, despite the danger. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Good." Kenji's attention shifted to his cousin. "Minjun, remove your weapon. Taemin is leaving." The gun withdrew. Taemin straightened his coat, his smile finally cracking around the edges. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake was letting you think I'd forgotten how to protect what matters." Kenji's voice dropped to something ancient and final. "That woman and her daughter are under my protection. Permanently, absolutely. Anyone who approaches them with anything but respect answers to me. Anyone who threatens them dies. Is that clear enough for your limited understanding? You'll tear the family apart for strangers. They're not strangers. Not anymore." Kenji moved between Taemin and Alani, his body a wall, just like on the subway. "Now leave, and tell the family that the dragon has found something worth protecting again. Anyone who has a problem with that can come see me directly." Taemin's jaw worked, rage and calculation warring in his eyes, but he wasn't stupid. Not here, not now, not outnumbered. "This isn't over." "It is." Kenji's finality brooked no argument. "It's been over since a 6-year-old girl taught me what actually matters in this world. Now get out of my sight, before I forget we share blood." The rivals stared at each other for one eternal moment. Then Taemin gestured to his men. They retreated to a waiting car, leaving Alani and Kenji alone on the street. Minjun's guards a discreet distance away, giving them privacy. "It was you," Alani said finally. "All of it. The medical bills, the rent, the surgery, the scholarship, the men watching our building." She should be angry. She should be afraid. Instead, she just felt tired. "Why?" Kenji's hand moved to his pocket, pulling out something small. The plastic superhero, worn and faded but carefully preserved, Hope's toy. The gift from a child who'd seen a stranger's sadness and tried to help. "Because your daughter gave me this and told me I was losing a battle in my heart." His voice cracked slightly. She was right. I'd forgotten that there was anything worth fighting for beyond power and fear. She reminded me. By giving you a broken toy, by giving me kindness when I deserved nothing, by seeing good in a monster. Kenji carefully returned the toy to his pocket. "I know this frightens you. I know you want nothing to do with my world. But whether you accept it or not, you and Hope are under my protection now. Permanently." Alani studied this dangerous man who'd saved her daughter's life, who'd given her opportunities she'd never dreamed possible, who'd just risked family war to keep her safe. "I don't want Hope growing up in this world. She won't, I promise you that. She'll grow up safe, educated, free to be whoever she wants to be. You both will." Kenji's eyes held absolute certainty. "That's what guardians do, Miss Clark. We protect without asking for payment. We give without expecting return. Your daughter taught me that." "What do you get out of this?" Kenji smiled. A real smile, sad and genuine and somehow hopeful. "Peace. For the first time in my life. Actual peace." Before Alani could respond, Minjun approached. "We should move. This location is exposed." "Will you let me take you home?" Kenji asked. "Just to be safe?" Alani should refuse, should run, should never see him again. But Hope was waiting. And the night was cold, and this monster with kind eyes had saved them more than once. "Okay," she whispered. The ride home was silent. But when Kenji walked her to her door, when he waited until she was safely inside, when he gave her a phone number in case you ever need anything, Alani understood that her life had fundamentally changed. The Dragon of Chicago had chosen them, and dragons, she was learning, protected their treasures absolutely. 6 months later, on a spring afternoon when Chicago's rebirth seemed almost magical, Kenji sat in his office with the window open, letting fresh air chase away the winter's ghosts. The plastic superhero stood on his desk now, no longer hidden in his pocket but displayed openly. A reminder, a promise, a symbol of the man he was becoming. His phone showed a video Minjun had sent. Hope playing in the park, healthy and laughing, running with the boundless energy of a child whose lungs worked perfectly. Alani sat on a bench nearby, textbooks spread around her, studying for nursing school finals. She was thriving, they both were. Kenji had never spoken to them again after that November night, never approached, never asked for gratitude or acknowledgement. He protected from the shadows as guardians should. The Chang Foundation now supported 43 single mothers across Chicago. His legitimate businesses had expanded, providing jobs and opportunities. He still ran his empire, still made the hard decisions, still was the dragon when necessary. But he was something else too, something better. His office door opened. Min Jun entered, carrying reports Kenji would need to review. But his friend paused, looking at the toy on the desk. "She asked about you yesterday," Min Jun said quietly. "Hope." Alani. She asked if the guardian angel who saved them was real or if she'd imagined it all. Kenji's fingers brushed the toy. "What did you tell her?" "That angels come in unexpected forms, that sometimes the most dangerous protectors are the most loyal." Min Jun smiled. "That she should focus on school and being a great mother, because that's what her guardian would want." Good answer. Through his window, Kenji could see all of Chicago spread below. 8 million stories, 8 million battles. He couldn't save everyone. But he'd saved 2 people who mattered. Who'd taught him that power without purpose was empty. That redemption was possible even for dragons, and sometimes that was enough. Kenji picked up the superhero, held it to the light, and smiled. Captain Justice, the girl had called it. A hero who fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Perhaps he'd finally learned to be that hero. Perhaps the battle in his heart was finally won.